The great crumbling has begun, it would seem, as the last week or so produced more bombs than a bad evening in Dresden around the 1940s, beginning with Pixar's worst failure in the studio's entire history, Elementals, and to be fair, it's hardly a surprise. Okay, so you have here a romance story about fire and water. The script literally writes itself. They come from different worlds, but they fall in love regardless. Their parents don't approve. How will true love vanquish all this time? Ugh. This might have worked 20, 30 years ago, but at this point it is not only lacking in originality, it is the actual definition of unoriginality. And that was hardly the only one. Ezra Miller, the person who amazingly still has a job considering his list of accusations, I tell you, somebody near him or he himself knows where a lot of bodies are buried, but The Flash also seems to be heading towards a $150 million loss. The Little Mermaid as well seems to be on the way towards losing money. And even Disney, with its latest television gamble, Primos is not only looking to flop, but it is getting dragged across the coal by the very community it was trying to appeal to, the Latino American community, who view it as extraordinarily racist and stereotypical. And to make matters a slight bit worse, just to further fuel it, one of the voice actresses, I believe, explained that the reason why they constantly messed up the pronunciation of, Spanish words and the language in general was because the Spanish language is not a Latin American language. It is a language the Spanish conquistadors forced upon Latin American people. I can't speak Spanish because it is the language of the colonizer. It will come to no great shock for you to learn that she since yeeted her Instagram and all other forms of communication. She is correct in that Spanish was obviously introduced to Latin America and South America by the Spanish. But that is still not an excuse for you not to be able to speak it and pronounce it correctly when you are doing a show in Spanish, with Spanish language and Spanish words, etc. And it's not just this, because of course, bombs, we've seen plenty of bombs over the last few years, and these studios appear to have been completely and utterly immune to them. Regardless of how many times they fail, they only seem to be failing upwards, if anything, producing a bigger and worse failure the next year around. But there is something a bit different about this year, in my opinion. Firstly, because everyone has been bombing so uniformly, so categorically, and so without question. There hasn't been like a success practically from any of these major companies this whole year. And we're also seeing this beginning to extend to the big platforms as well. So Kick is an up-and-coming, let's hope at least, streaming service, which recently managed to steal Xqc, which is apparently one of the biggest Twitch streamers out there, and now also apparently Amouranth, who is one of the biggest ethos out there, to their service from Twitch. That is a massive and immediate loss, and really should see some alarm bells beginning to ring over at Twitch headquarters. Because of course, as I've talked about multiple times previously, there is a bit of a vicious circle here that has essentially protected all of these big streamings, platforms, and YouTube. Namely that you need to have 3 elements to even have a hope in hell of competing against them or even becoming something resembling a competitor, other than just the carcass-eating animal sitting by the sidelines waiting for people to be banned from the predominant platforms. You need the talent. Without the talent, you don't have the audience. Without the audience, you don't have the advertiser money, and without the advertiser money, you don't have the talent. So you kind of have to have all 3 of these to be able to actually break into the market. And well, Kick has demonstrated the ability that they do have the money, signing on Xqc for a bigger deal than LeBron James. No, I'm not joking, seriously. Which in turn brings the talent, obviously, and which in turn also brings the audience, with now more talent, quotation marks intended, going over to the platform as well. This despite that Kick has a very unfinished monetization system, and to be fair, we have seen this song and dance before, haven't we? It's like, oh, a competitor, big talents are moving over to it, this'll totally be the one. We'll see in 6 months, but I do certainly hope so, as even YouTube, the absolute king of online video sharing and is heading towards the kingdom of streamship these days, with Twitch falling ever further behind, is lowering the barrier to be eligible for its monetization program. So, for those of you who are unaware, a few years ago, YouTube introduced requirements for being able to monetize your videos on YouTube, which also meant requirements on how to get access to the algorithm. Because if you're unmonetized, YouTube does not give two figs about you, not at all. Like, you don't even show up in the algorithms practically, which means it is very difficult to even get that basic requirements. Now, for somebody who is already established, the requirements were nothing at all, but for somebody who was trying to start a YouTube account, like getting 1,000 odd hours or so of view time and subscribers, etc., is actually really hard, especially as you don't have access to the algorithm. YouTube lowering these requirements to 500 subscribers, 3 public uploads in the last 90 days, and either 3,000 watch hours in the past year or 3 million short views in the last 90 days, which I believe is, around about half or so on the subscriber numbers, etc. That is a pretty gosh darn big concession. And many people have been speculating as to why. Maybe YouTube just isn't really paying the bills anymore. Maybe they're looking at all their big name talents and how they're diversifying to other platforms, and maybe they're looking over at Twitch having their talents stolen and going, maybe we can't rely on our top 1% anymore. Maybe we need to try and build up a baseline of the 20-30 percenters as well. Because right now, YouTube is essentially a realm of haves or have-nots, and that's about it. And then you've got the absolute topmost percent with millions upon millions and millions of subscribers hauling in hundreds of thousands of views per video and so on. And this is, of course, also a little bit, perhaps, in response to Twitch, which appears to be, well, like this article puts it, a failed state. And unironically, it is. Its monetization system is getting worse. They recently announced that they were doing a 70-30 revenue split, which a lot of people had been requesting, but it comes with a series of requirements. And if you hit $100,000 in income, it reverts to a 50-50 split again. Twitch seems to be doing its level best to drive away the entities working on the platform. And already, Twitch was always known as a shit place to be. Like, if you were going to be a Twitcher, you basically have to stream all day, every day, forever and ever. And even then, your odds of actually succeeding and blowing up are next to zero. But of course, that wasn't actually a problem. So long as Twitch and YouTube, etc. were the only platforms around, they could do whatever the hell they wanted. Just like Disney and the big name Pixars could do whatever the hell they wanted, because there wasn't actually any real competition. Now that these established companies are beginning to show some serious cracks in the fundament, God willing, we will start seeing some actual serious competition beginning to emerge as well. With, of course, Kick being one of the potential alternatives here. In fact, there are quite a lot of small streaming platforms and video sharing services out there these days, but again, most of them have that key failing that they tend to be the scavengers, picking up the detritus after the big platforms rather than actually trying to compete with them. Something that Kick at least appears to be changing now, which would be nice. Like Rumble is a perfect example. Rumble has one of the worst backends in video sharing history, and simply seems to expect that people will come to them because they've got nowhere else to go, whilst in reality, it's competing with a much larger platform. This idea that people should abandon the far larger, far more profitable, far more successful platform for the alternative that is worse in almost every way, simply because it's the alternative, it doesn't really hold water, sadly. So hopefully we will be seeing an era of actual genuine competition now. And bearing in mind too, one of the reasons why nobody could ever compete like companies like Pixar was because you couldn't possibly produce their level of quality content. But with AI getting more and more powerful as well, I bet you within, hell, not even 10 years, 5, 6 maybe, we are going to be able to see AI tools powerful enough to create content that isn't directly comparable to Pixar, but at the very least close enough to the point where a bit of creativity and ingenuity could actually outcompete the big budget titles, especially as the audience is clearly getting really sick of this repetitive brand merchandise crap. Who knows? Maybe we'll even see the rise of a new Star Wars, a new 40K, a new Star Trek, different things. Hell, the Orwell already did a pretty good job in the Star Trek market, although apparently its season 4 is looking a little bit dodgy at the moment. I don't know, I think maybe the economic collapse this time around might be very beneficial to everyone involved, as bear you in mind, this will not happen overnight, of course. Once the big companies begin to collapse and burn, there will be a period of absolute drought in all due likelihood. There will be a period of absolute garbage, shit and dumpster fires everywhere before, from the ashes, hopefully, something better will slowly begin to grow. Nevertheless, despite the harshness of the upcoming times, I am very happy to see the crumbling begin in earnest. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.